Welcome back to Investing and Trading Live, sponsored by Online Trading Academy. My name is Josh Lilquist, and we are talking about investing and trading with all markets today. We talked a little bit about in that first segment about what's going on in these markets. Gas prices are up, and we did have a lot of people calling in for this 3-day deep dive into the financial markets. So if you missed that class, we have a 3-day deep dive into the financial markets at our local academies here. And this is a class where we cover all the markets: stock, options, futures, Forex, what they're used for, and why they might be a potential benefit for you. That way you can make an educated decision. What is the right asset to trade and invest with? Normally, this class is $200 for our radio listeners here today. We're going to do that for the callers calling in now for $99. You can call 888-682-6466. If you're driving, you might want to pull over. 888-682-6466. And this is for you and your spouse. Most people bring their spouse with, which is pretty cool because I know most people make their financial decisions together, hopefully making smart decisions moving forward. So, Al, in that last segment, you gave some great analogies about how you need to be in a strategy in the financial markets for both directions. Very similar to a sports team. You need to have offense, you need to have defense, both directions, right? So with the gas prices continuing to go up, it's not getting any cheaper at the grocery store. We see a lot of people come to the academy because their costs have doubled, right? Their food consumption has stayed the same, but their prices have doubled.
Right.
Driving their cars is doubling. I mean, the prices of everything is so high right now. People just are struggling to have enough to save, right? So they're using most of their capital or most of their money they're earning, whether it's from their 401k during retirement or their job, is just covering those bills.
Okay.
So you help a lot of people here at the academy with income strategies to kind of combat some of that. That way, hopefully some of your job or your retirement accounts that pays your bills, hopefully has a little bit of fun, but you still need to learn how to save. And how you save is having extra income. So that being said, we talked about supply and demand in the last segment. How do you help people here at the academy use supply and demand, that technique or concept in the financial markets, to have another income strategy to start saving for their wealth bucket?
Well, I think it's important to know that that there's a difference in how you approach the markets for short-term income and how you invest for long-term wealth for those retirement years down, hopefully down the road, which you might have 30 or 40 of. But if you need income, if you're looking for short-term income, really what that means is that it's something you have to be able to access on a short-term basis. Unfortunately, most of the Wall Street advice out there is geared towards the long-term buildup, which is, I think, one of the reasons that a lot of people are hurting so much this year. We've seen a lot of people come into these classes who are saying, I did really well right up until the beginning of the year, and then I'm just getting hammered, and it's because they're buying into that kind of that long term strategy. And what's really important is, I think the income part of your financial life is the most important because you need it while you're still working to build up your assets because you're in that asset accumulation phase. But what about when you retire? When you retire, one of the things that is now missing from your life is the income from your job.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of people that have retired, Al, that come to these classes that we have here at the academy, and they want to be able to have more longevity with those retirement
Right.
accounts. So
Right.
that's having that extra income stream then is just as crucial as it is during those working years.
Yeah, I think it's what's really important in retirement isn't necessarily how much you have in a retirement account, it's how much income you can generate off of it. So learning the income skills are really important. And again, there's a different way of approaching the markets for short-term income. They're different assets. Most people are familiar with stocks and mutual funds, and they just are told to put together a portfolio and hold on to it for decades. Don't worry about the drawdowns. Don't worry about what's happened the first half of this year because the market will come back. And they're right, it will. But when will it? Do you have periods of time of number of years, where your portfolio isn't doing anything?
Let's break that down real quick, Al, because a lot of our listeners probably don't really understand that. So think about this for a second. If the market's going down and you're investing into it, you're actually losing money. So your dollars aren't going anywhere. So that I don't think people really understand that when they're investing and buying in a down market, they're losing,
Yeah.
and it takes that much more or a higher rate of return to get back to where they were. So they don't really understand that.
That's true. Whatever percent you are down, you have to have a higher percent to get back to where you were. Example would be a 50% drawdown. If you lose 50% of your assets, and you own, let's just say you have $100,000 and you lose 50%, you're now down to 50,000. You went down 50%. Now, some people think, well, I just have to be up 50% and I'll be fine. But when you're down to 50% and now you have an increase of 50% on that, that's only 25,000. That brings you up to 75, not your 100,000. So bottom line, if you're down 50%, you have to be up 100% just to break even, just to get to the point where you can start making a profit. And one of the reasons that people go through that is they don't know how to protect their assets. And that's one of the things that probably the number one thing that we teach people, regardless of whether you're looking for short-term income or long-term wealth. Protect what you have. Protect profits that you make, and don't think about the fact that, well, it'll come back. Because if you do that, you're letting potentially years go by where you're not benefiting at all from these markets. And one of the problems is people don't know how to protect themselves, and they don't know how to benefit in a down market.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned supply and demand and how we use that. For short-term trading, aren't you just interested in when you make a trade, when you put an investment together, you want it to go in the direction you want it to go. If you buy something, you want it to go up in value. How can you increase the odds of knowing that that's going to happen? How can you increase the possibility of getting the greatest profit out of that upward move if you're right? Well, it's first of all, it's identifying when to buy. It's not necessarily the company itself or the asset. It's when to buy it that is the important thing. And that's followed by when to sell it. Those are the two key components that you need to identify. How do you do that? The supply and demand strategy is part of our core strategy that helps you to do that, because we're simply identifying where the people with huge amounts of money, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, are buying or selling. And they're telegraphing that to us on a price chart, but you need to know how to identify it on a price chart. That's what we do. We teach you how to read a price chart. Everything you need to know is there. It's like reading a story about something. You don't need all of this extraneous things that a lot of people look at. Most people right now, Josh, will when they're looking at making an investment, they look at the fundamentals, and that's how they make their decision. And I just want to quote something from Warren Buffett. He said, "I must tell you about a new generally accepted accounting principle." Excuse me. Got a little choked up about it, called GAAP, GAAP, that will severely distort Berkshire's net income figures and very often mislead commentators and investors. For analytical purposes, Berkshire's bottom line will be useless. That's the same accounting principle that companies use. Basically, what he's saying is the fundamentals aren't really going to be of any help, but there is a way of using them for long-term wealth. There's certain types of or parts of the fundamental analysis that are important, but not for that income component.
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, that's, when I kicked off the show, I said, there's a potential supply area in the S&P 500, and that's based off of a price chart. And that's where we get our information, as Al is talking about, on a price chart. That way, price does not lie in the financial markets. The internet, it's possible for that to be fabricated a little bit. The news is possible for that to be fabricated a little bit. If you're listening right now, you're probably like, yeah, you're probably right. So that's why you need that strategy that's designed to follow those institutions, trade like them, and not against them. And that's that core strategy that Online Trading Academy has. And we talk a lot about that core strategy and actually dissect what that actually looks like in the free investing classes that we have here locally at the Academy. These are physical classes to go to see how these markets work and see if trading investing is something that you want to get into. You can text right now for 2 tickets for this class. Text the word investing to the number 210-210 right now. Text investing to the number 210-210. And this is for 2 tickets for an investing class right here at our academies. So we've been talking about these markets and what's been happening as this market has dropped. It's down. I mean, we've hit lows in the S&P 500 of roughly about 25% for our YouTube viewers right now that are seeing the chart. About 25% on the S&P 500. The NASDAQ is a lot more. I believe it's closer to 35%.
Correct.
So that being said, you need those strategies for up markets, which we had for many years, and now people that have been trading from say somebody got into the market in 2018 or 2019. Now they're like, oh hey, things have changed and they're struggling now. So we have to have a strategy for this down market. Al mentioned earlier, if you have a 50% drop in the market, you need a 100% return to get to back where you were at. So why not hopefully eliminate that 50% drop and learn the skills and strategies to profit as the market goes down? So that being said, Al, what is that concept called? Explain it and make it real simple for our listeners, what the concept is called and what it will do in down markets.
Right. The concept is called shorting, and it's a way of having a potential benefit in a down market. And you can do this with different assets. You can do it with individual stocks. You can do it with the markets, the indexes like the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P, the Russell. And it's basically a way of borrowing shares of something you don't own from your broker, in which they will do, and then you sell it at what you think is a high price. Your assumption is it's going to go down in price. Since you borrowed it, you have to return it at some point in time. So you will have to go out, buy the shares that you no longer own, that you sold, that you borrowed, and return them to the broker. And if it goes down in value, your profit is the difference between what you sold it for and what you buy it back for. And it's a weird concept to comprehend, and we go into more detail in these classes, especially in that 3-day class Josh was talking about. They really tear that apart and show you how it works. That is a concept that is a game changer. All of the big firms, all the big hedge funds use it, but in a retirement account, you can't use it. You can't short. But there are other ways of benefiting in a down market. So shorting is one. Using a particular type of option is another. That option will go up in value as the underlying stock or ETF or whatever you have that option on. Options are a contract on something. We go into detail on that in this in the 2-hour class, and then also in the 3-day class. But options, there's an option that will go up in value as the stock, for example, goes down in value. And then there are also what we call inverse exchange traded funds, or inverse ETFs. An ETF is very similar to a mutual fund. It's a basket of stocks. And there's an inverse one that goes the opposite direction of the components of that ETF. So if the S&P 500, for example, if the S&P is down 10%, that inverse one would be up about 10%. And there's also leveraged ones that go 2 times or 3 times the opposite direction.
Yeah, for people that are listening right now on the radio, they're probably like, man, what does that actually mean? For our live viewers right now, probably looking at Al and I like we have 2 heads. Like, how is that possible? How do you profit as the market goes down with the stock? And I did a podcast a long time ago with one of our instructors, Tim, and I asked him to explain that. And he said, it's because you can. He said, don't worry about the reason. Right. Why does a car drive?
Yeah.
Well, you could probably go into the mechanics of it, but it's because it drives.
You just take advantage of it.
You're right. So that's what the great thing about the markets is. It doesn't matter the reason for a lot of this stuff. And I think people sometimes want to know the reason too much, and it really fogs their brain on what's really happening, and they miss opportunities. Yep. If you feel like you've been missing opportunities as this market has dropped, that FOMO, now is the time. We have great opportunities moving forward with these markets. Learn how to short the market. We talk about that and illustrate and dissect that in this free investing class that I'm going to give away tickets to here in a second with a text number to see what that actually looks like, how it happens, and what that might be with your stocks, your options, your futures, your Forex for income strategies in the markets. Text the word investing right now. Text the word investing to the number 210-210. That's investing to the number 210-210. And this is for 2 tickets, 1 for you and a friend. You're also going to receive a financial quick start kit just for getting set up for this class. There's a couple topics in there on how to get started right away, but also some free stock picks. Text investing to the number 210-210. Al, we haven't really covered a lot about retirement. Big topic right now. We've had a lot of people come to these classes and say, hey, what's going on with my 401k? What's going on with my IRA? Let's talk about that coming up next. This is Josh and Al, Investing and Trading Live. We will be